their final last argument for the push there. I did want to cover, because we have to cover a little bit of this. So David Pakman covered this. We're going to go through his coverage a little bit. Trump went on Joe Rogan, which, yay. There was a lot of the talk, too, because they were like, well, Rogan is right-wing. He says he's not. He's like the moderate dude bro kind of guy, right? I'm not. I'm just asking questions. I'm not really a right-wing nut job, which he is. So he's Trump on and gets all this pushback of, well, how come you don't invite Harris on? I will. And then, of course, there was all this rumor about, he did invite Harris. She said she'd go. And then, of course, somehow that got canceled at the last minute. Because he doesn't want her on. Because she'll just make him look like a dipshit. And he knows it. But he brought Trump on to try and make Trump look good. And as we saw with the other podcasts like PBD and stuff that Trump went on, Trump just rambled. And Joe Rogan show is 3 hours. So Trump rambled for 3 hours, and it finally got to the point where Rogan was trying to cut him off and get him on track. And Rogan was getting irritated. But we're going to watch a couple clips, because this is just, it's absolutely nuts how gone his mind is right now. Just absolutely crazy. So we'll get into that.
And it was very, very surreal. That room was so beautiful to me, much more beautiful than it actually is. To me, when I looked at the bed, and the bed you could see it was a little bit longer, had to be a little bit longer. He lost his son, and they suffered, the two of them suffered from melancholia. They didn't call it depression. They called it melancholia, and they suffered from it. He was a very depressed guy, and she was a very depressed woman, more so than him. And on top of that, they lost their son, whose name was Ted. And it was just seeing it in the little pictures,
So let me preface this. So this whole thing where he's talking, and it's just rambling, right? What he's talking about is he went and saw where Lincoln was shot at the theater, right? And
okay.
Basically, he's like, see, I know all this history about Lincoln. This is like his mind is gone. So Abraham Lincoln, and he's talking about his son Tad and all this shit. And it's really funny because he's going through this, and it has, I can't remember what the question was Rogan asked him. It had nothing to do with this, though. It had to do with something like him getting shot at or something, and he sort of linked that to Lincoln getting shot at. And he's going through this history about Lincoln getting depressed because, his son died, his son Tad died, and they got depressed, they called it melancholia, and then, all this stuff. And, well, the fact of the matter is, Tad died after Lincoln. Lincoln predeceased his son. So this is all horseshit. So he's got his history all backwards, but he's just rambling. This was the whole thing. He rambled for hours, and Rogan finally just got irritated. Let's skip to this point with David Pakman and have him introduce it, but it's like, it just goes crazy. I just want to give you a taste of how gone his mind is.
This is really weird. And Rogan sort of tries to convince him, no, you did play golf right after you got shot. Trump seems to have no memory of it whatsoever.
But it gives me a little exercise. But I haven't played in a long time. I won 32 club championships.
Didn't you play right after you got shot?
No. What I did is I played with Bryson DeChambeau. Do you know Bryson?
Yes.
The pro.
Uh-huh.
He's a great player. And we played, it was a certain thing that we played, I guess called breaking 50 or something. 50 we play from a certain tee, and if you can break 50. And it got tremendous ratings. It was sort of like a crazy thing. It got he's a great guy.
But wasn't that like a couple of days after you got shot?
I don't know. I know I haven't.
That was one of the funniest things. You were on the golf course.
I think I did, yeah. Maybe I did.
So Rogan...
Okay, so Joe Rogan's trying to tee him up. Hey, look how fit and tough you are. You got shot at, and then like a day later you were playing golf, right? No. Let me tell you about this time I played with Bryson DeChambeau back in the fucking 90s.
Yeah, like, God, it's like a road to nowhere. I don't even know what to say about it because it all doesn't make any damn sense.
No, and then Rogan's trying
It's like, what am I listening to? What am I listening to?
And then Rogan's trying to bring out, no, but you played after you got shot. See, to show that just how, maybe, I mean, he can't because this is what dementia is, folks. They can't remember things in the recent history, but they can remember shit 30 years ago in vivid detail. I went through it with my grandfather when he had Parkinson. I mean, he would tell you a story that happened to him as a child, 60 plus years ago, 70 years ago, and he'd tell you in detail. You know, colors of things, you know, where he was at specifically. But if you asked him what happened yesterday, he had no clue. I mean, it's the same shit with Trump. It just, we'll watch a little bit more because it's just, this was fascinating because it just kept, it was literally rambling dementia for 3 hours. And Rogan tried to make him look good and it just didn't work. It was just a shit show.
Really know what it's going to be like when you actually get into office. What did you think it was going to be like?
In office or when I decided to run?
So when you got in.
When I was in. So when I was in and won and was in the White House, essentially.
Yes.
Well, first of all, it was very surreal.
Joe Rogan's now, this is like the 5th time he's asked him this question in a row. The question is, what was it like on your first day in office? That's it.
Okay.
And he's finally got it. What do you mean when I ran? No. You mean, no, when you won. When I won, okay, I'm in office. Okay, so now he's finally there.
You know, it's very interesting. When I got shot, it wasn't surreal. That should have been surreal. When I was laying on the ground, I knew exactly what was going on. I knew exactly where I was hit. They were saying you were hit all over the place because there was so much blood from the ear. You would know that better than anyone. When they get the ear torn up.
Ears bleed a lot,
they bleed. Anyway, so, and I was thinking the other day, when that happened, I really knew where I was. I knew exactly what happened. I said I wasn't hit anywhere else. With the presidency, it was a very surreal experience, okay?
Like, what's day one like? You win,
yeah.
You get inaugurated.
Again, we're back to, okay, what was day one like? He still can't get him. What was day one like? What's his first answer? I mean, it took him a while just to get here, but what's the answer? What was day one like? Well, when I got shot, I knew where I was. Okay, that's not really very reassuring. I know where
you were in the White House and you didn't know where you were is a little bit scary. You know what, actually, I get the surreal part, but this seems like an easy question, and it's like a no-lose question. It's like an any answer is fine question.
Yeah.
And he's not even answering it. And there's no danger in answering it because it could be like, it was actually really scary, or it was so overwhelming, or it was so busy, I was exhausted. Like, any answer feels like it's fine.
Well, yeah.
But he's just not even, he can't even answer it.
Well, and this is kind of your typical sort of, I mean, Rogan's really struggling at this point, because this is your total suck-up kind of question that you normally ask, right? In like a casual interview. Like, they used to ask this to, like, Obama or Bill Clinton or Bush, what was it like on the first day? And they'll tell you some anecdote about it or something they did. Or, you know, Obama used to tell the story about, because he kept the same, I guess, the guy who ran the White House, essentially, was the same guy that Bush had and Clinton had. And Obama kept him and asked the guy on his first day in office, so what does this job really entail? What is it really all about? And he said, the guy told me, well, let's just say the presidency is basically the biggest employer in the world. You employ millions of people, and some of them somewhere are screwing up, and it's your fault. That's the job. I mean, that's Obama. But see, Obama could tell a vivid story like that.
You know, I could believe that. I've never thought about it in those terms before, but yeah, that sounds probably about right.
Yeah, you're the boss. It's instantly your fault once you sit in that chair. But Trump can't even remember his first day. Right? He's still trying to, he's like, okay, what was your first day like in office? Well, I knew where I was when I got shot. I remember that. Well, do you know where you are now? How about that? Let's go backwards. But Rogan's still trying to tee him up, and he can't get there. It's just crazy.
Holy shit, I'm the president.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so Trump opting to tell a story about his ear when he's asked about his first day in the White House, and finally...
See, I mean, it's just... David Pakman can't even... It's like, I can't even handle it. I don't even know what to do. Let's do one last clip here, but this is just nuts with this guy. All right.
I don't know. I've never read this. I heard it from people in the White House who really understand what was going on with the whole life of the White House. but Lincoln had the yips about, in a way, as the golfers would say. He had a phobia about Robert E. Lee. He said, I can't beat Robert, because Robert E. Lee won many battles in a row. He was just beating the hell out of him. You know, they tried to get Robert E. Lee to be on the North, but he said, no, I have to be with my state. You know, the state was his whole thing, and he went to the South. And he was, I've had generals tell me, we have some great generals, the real generals, not the ones you see on television, the ones that beat ISIS with me. We defeated ISIS in record time. It was supposed to take years, and we did it in a matter of weeks. These are great generals. These are tough guys. These are not woke guys. But their favorite general, in terms of genius, was Robert E. Lee.
In terms of strength.
Yeah. So anyway,
Okay, so then it's, I mean,
What the hell is he talking about?
some about generals. I think he asked him about Kelly, and then he started talking about Robert E. Lee. And it's like, no, honestly, I know what happened. He went on a tour of like the Lincoln Memorial where Lincoln was shot or something like that, and they told him this shit, and he's like, oh, that's fascinating. And now he's having dementia on Joe Rogan, and that's what he remembers. Generals, oh, I remember going on that tour of the Lincoln thing. That's how that works. He's not there.
Yeah. Well, it's like, can't believe I'm going to say I feel bad for Joe Rogan, but like anybody that's trying to interview Trump right now, clearly you watch struggling to even like make it a coherent interview, because even though you're used to a politician, I'm sure, dodging your questions kind of, the tour Trump is taking people on is so strange and discombobulated that it's like you can't even figure out how to maneuver inside of it, even if you're trying to go with the flow.
Well, right. It's like we watched that clip of J.D. Vance earlier. J.D. Vance dodges everything, but the thing about it is J.D. Vance still will stay in the present. And he does it. He won't go back 10 years or 20 years or whatever it is. And there's furthermore this thing about Lincoln was scared of Robert E. Lee, and he's talking about this whole thing. It's not what it is. Lincoln never met Robert E. Lee. What happened was he's thinking about... who was the general that he had that later became president? I forget his name. I'll think of it in a minute. I can't remember. But it was Roosevelt. Sorry. So Roosevelt was not. Robert E. Lee went to went to West Point. He was like second in his class. Was a brilliant strategist on the battlefield, but he was with the South because he was a slave owner, and he did win a lot of battles. And there was a big argument between Lincoln's generals about how do we beat them, and it was Roosevelt who finally just stepped up and said, we don't have to beat them. We outnumber them 10-1. We have all the guns. We have all the food. We can lose every battle and still win the war. And basically what he's thinking about is Roosevelt then wrote Lee a letter saying, hey, guess what? I don't expect to beat you in any battle. I'm just going to wear you down. And what ended up happening was Lee went to... What was the guys who were running the Confederacy? I forget their names off the top of my head. I can't. It's all history shit, right? And basically told them, yeah, we're going to lose this war. And they said, go ahead anyway. And that's what happened. They knew years before it was over that they weren't going to win. That's what he's thinking about. But he can't even remember the story. He thinks it has something to do directly with Lincoln. It's actually about Roosevelt. That he's talking about. I mean, it's just crazy. But his mind is gone. We will cover a little bit more of some of this Joe Rogan stuff, because Joe Rogan, I think, may have inadvertently really screwed Trump here in a couple ways. One, by doing this, because this is 3 hours of Trump just rambling. And even Rogan started to get irritated. Right, because he's trying to do a show, he's trying to move it along, and Trump's just going off in circles.
Well, and you know, Rogan's not getting anywhere with him. No. I mean, he's not even trying to get to a challenging place, but like I said before, like Trump is so all over the place that Rogan can't even get to some of the sort of simple, should be easy for Trump places to get to, you know?
Right. Well, what ends up happening...